We are back. It is Aquarian Anarchy. It is time to get into it. What up, Hotep Dutch? I see you in the chat.
That's a Dutch.
Greetings, everybody. It is time to get after it one more time. We're going to get into, as you know, we tend to do this frequently. We're going to get into some faith-based stuff, some spirituality stuff, and we can't wait to have you join us and enjoy that conversation. We're at it. Naturally, our quote for tonight comes from Galatians chapter 5, verse 1. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. And I told Marcus when we first talked about this quote being the one that we would use for tonight that I wanted to jump right into that, because that quote oftentimes I think can be misinterpreted because people look at slavery, they just think of it through the materialistic world lens, and they don't think about like how we can become a slave to the things that we desire. We can become a slave to our passions, to like our habits, bad habits in a lot of cases. And a lot of times people will talk about freedom from the standpoint of, I want the freedom to keep doing dumb shit all the time that is hurting me and hurting other people. And that's not what that means. What that means is like in a lot of ways, the yoke of slavery that we often find ourselves under is something that we have foisted upon ourselves through our own embracing of the things that keep us from God. So that's where that thing lands on me. I'd like to hear what Marcus and Nicco have to say about that quote.
Well, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with the fact that you playing a prisoner to your either passions, addictions, or having an overwhelming, I would say, overwhelming gesture to something that doesn't really provide anything else other than like a materialistic gain. And I mean, you can be stuck mentally, not being able to move forward, and you're always running back to the same start line, but you never finish.
Right.
So you just are running in place like a treadmill, if you will. So no, it's technically the mental, the tangibles that leave you a slave, and I mean you could be a slave to your spiritual practices too. I mean it depends on how you view the word slave, but if you are like, for example, if you're always stuck in one place and you never are able to overlook, so you say you're a slave to a certain ideology of said religion or spiritual practice. So, for example, there's sinners all over this world, but I'm not coming at you, Chad, but like I'm a Christian. So you're a slave because you spend money on alcohol, this, that, and the third, and you're a sinner. So therefore, I'm going to consider you a slave to the sins that you continuously indulge in and things of that nature. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you say that, because the spiritual practices thing, Marcus and I were talking before we came on about when I was going to type in the title for tonight's show. When I typed in the evolution of the revolution, it hit different, because it was like, oh wait, like this is the most perfect title for this show, for this project, because it has evolved so much, because we haven't become like beholden to whatever the original like framework was, that and each little framework along the way that we started to move down. We've just let this project kind of be led by what God has put in front of us. Like it has not been something where we've said, no, we're not doing that, because it's not like, no, we've been very, I for me anyway, that's how I feel like I've approached this, is that I've let it kind of take on whatever life I think we're being led to bring it towards.
Yeah, it's kind of leading you as opposed to you leading it. I think that has some relation to the quote from Galatians. You know, I think a lot of people, when they think of Jesus as a spiritual leader, they want to think about like I guess the buddy Christ, from and they want him to be this goody who's sitting beside him, maybe puts his hand on his shoulders, tell him it's gonna be all right. That's not the Jesus that's in the Bible. He is he is a lot more of a challenge. To him, we've spent a lot of our time in our existence, regardless of what you call yourself, whether you call yourself a Christian or any kind of spirituality, but we've spent a bunch of time ruled by a bunch of things that don't matter. And that includes people who consider themselves people. And Jesus called you to do something better than that. He, much like Buddha, called you to set aside all things and set your eyes on God first. Sure, have wonderful things, have your family, do all those things, but the number one most important thing is to set your eyes on God and move towards that. And that's a very challenging way of approaching life, to set your physical life aside and get your eyes planted on something that is spiritual. And Jesus taught that that's the number one thing. And again, this isn't a new idea. There are lots of spiritual paths, if you will, that will guide you there. But at the same time, Jesus doesn't come at this at all lightly. There is judgment, regardless of how we want to think about God as this, I guess, flower in the sky. But I'm sorry.
Like a get out of jail free card for all the dumb shit you did. It's like,
right. That's just not the way it works. Yeah. And it is very hard. When you start approaching what it means to have a spiritual life, you start realizing that your life is completely and totally controlled by God. And, a lot of anarchists aren't going to like that idea, and they're not going to like that that's the way forward that you're taking. But that's what it means to be a spiritual person, is to set aside the mundane and set your eyes on the spiritual, regardless of what's going to be the either a thought of payoff or the possible punishment for those things. You don't know. Jesus was put on a cross and murdered for his beliefs, and we should be. And I don't know what happened to Chad, but we should be just as prepared to have that happen to us as well. We need to be prepared to absolutely devote our absolute every being to those spiritual ideas. And Jesus knew that this wasn't an easy thing. It's a whole lot easier to just slap on them chains that the state or that anybody, any other person or group of people want to put on you, and just give in. And unfortunately, often the path of God is the path of tribulation, and often it's the path of trouble. But we know that we have some guidance as we move along as well.
I'm still here, by the way.
Okay.
I just I'm having to get this computer to stop acting up. It decided to wait until 10 minutes into the show anyway, even though I tried to not make it do that, but here we are.
But no, all right. Well, since I brought the topic of being a slave to said religion, do you think that you could possibly say that people are slaves to their religion, and it not necessarily being in a bad context, such as the word ritual? People will assume it to be, something that you do to try and conjure spirits, but ritual is something that you do every day. So do you think that it's proper to say that it's okay to slave away for your religion, or is it possibly going to be taken in the wrong context?
I guess it kind of depends on whether it's voluntary or not. Like if you could voluntarily submit yourself to obedience to a power greater than you, for the purposes of alignment. Like, because that's the way I look at, like, my relationship with God is not forceful, but at the same time, like, it is a voluntary obedience to the natural order that I think the creator of the universe set forth to make my ultimate fulfillment possible. Like, if I look at it from the standpoint of, no, I'm going to do things my way, I don't trust you, I don't care that you made all this stuff, I think I can do it better, well, then you're going to set yourself up for some really interesting challenge. But if you say, all right, I know that I'm going to have some temptations, but I'm going to trust you to help me with those, and I'm going to do everything I can to resist those myself, then I think your obedience to the will of God is not like a tyrannical slavery, but more of like you are voluntarily submitting yourself to a higher authority that actually loves you and has your best interest at heart. And that's the key thing, I think, for us to make that distinction. Like, we can obey our parents and our kids can obey us as parents. That does not mean that they are slaves to us in that negative tyrannical sort of way, but you could make the argument that maybe they're, submitting in a certain slavish way to that. But I think
but you're the dictator of the household. You have to be the one who, it's not a slave and master relationship, but you are a dictator of your household until they get it to a certain age to have their own mental autonomy. But I see where you're coming from.
I would say I saw for me, I would say that I don't believe that God has slaves. To me, you're not enslaved in the service of God. You could choose not to, and I think that's kind of the point. God says you can, at any moment, you could choose to not follow him. Just because someone's, like, if I'm sitting here and I'm across the street and there's a bunch of traffic coming by, and I say, hey, don't cross the street. I'm not being a tyrant by telling you, hey, don't cross the street. And you're not, and you're not, you're not being a slave if you obey, because there's a bunch of people coming, and if you don't, you're going to get smacked by a car. So that's just telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And so
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Following the truth isn't a state of enslavement to me. The fact that you can at any moment say, nah, I don't want to do that, then you're not in an enslaved system, even if it's a religion.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, like, it becomes like one of those weird psychological semantic exercises that's really, I think it's ultimately meaningless. Like, it's not, like, I think the point of this, like, using the term slavery in the instance that it is in this particular scripture passage, is talking about slavery from the standpoint of, like, you don't have control over it. You are being ruled by something out of your control, and you're allowing yourself unwittingly to be ruled by something. But if you really took self-ownership and chose to follow your design, the will of God, then you break free from that. And that's how you break free from those chains of slavery, is that way. And so in that sense, like, I don't think slavery could be in a positive sense. But I do want to say, you brought up the idea of slavery to your religion. I do think that can be a thing, and it can be negative. Like, if you have either distorted or followed a distortion that leads you into a way of seeing people in a certain way, or seeing yourself in a certain way that is harmful or is not helpful to your growth and to your getting closer to God and to that divine union, then you are being enslaved by something that is not in your best interest. So I think sometimes that can be definitely the case. So we have to be really careful and make sure that the voices that we're listening to are, because there are a lot of people who are out there, and I don't know, call them grifters, call it whatever you want to call them, but there are a lot of, I don't know, Joel Osteen comes to mind, these TV preachers and everything that they sell a good game, and they make a lot of money and they have a big, presence, but there's a lot of stuff that you're being led astray on with that. And it's like what Marcus was saying, there's a lot of struggle and suffering. If you're not struggling against your passions and your like sinful nature and like trying to work through those things and trying to lean on God more, like so much of the time I used to like get angry with God. I used to blame God for stuff going wrong with me. And now I see it as like, no, this is an opportunity for me to examine myself and to see how I have helped put myself in this position and to start doing things differently. It's an opportunity for me to repent and to change my ways. This isn't something where God's got it out for me. Like, I've been a dick and I need to stop being that way, and this is like, it's not like it's a punishment so much as it's an opportunity to like change my ways and to start to see the fruits of that transformation. It's hard to see it that way because we're very weak creatures. But I think, and you said something else, Nicco, about like pointing at someone and saying like, you're a sinner because you do this or whatever. Like as I've gone through like this, my Orthodox path, it's even like, it's bad form within Orthodox circles to like refer to anyone other than myself as the chief sinner. Like I am a sinner, and as far as you are concerned, I don't know. That's between you and God. Like I can tell you like the things that I think that might be dangerous that I'm experiencing, but it's not my place to I don't know, cast judgment or whatever you want to call it.
To actually circle back on what you said, when you said, I blamed God for punishing me.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be putting, I'd put myself in these certain situations and I'd have to deal with the consequences. And it brings me back to church. My uncle was a pastor and he had this one sermon that just like stuck with me. And he said, at the very end of it, he said, be glad that you got caught. Be glad that you got caught. So therefore you can deal with the consequences. And I mean, like, it kind of goes back to, cause and effect and the slavery topic. The cause is that you did something wrong, and the effect is what you have to go through as the said repercussions. So.
Yeah, well, that thing of getting having something happen now, like versus I talk about that all the time. Like, there's a lot of sports analogies that go with this, where like losing a game early in the season and then having a chance to get better and learn from the mistakes that got you there makes it to where you're better suited to go and do better at the end of the season, and when it's really important and the games are bigger and everything. Whereas getting away with some mistakes, you actually set yourself up for, first of all, it feeds into your pride because you think you can't do anything wrong, think your shit doesn't stink, and the fall is going to be even greater. So yeah, you sometimes you have to let your kids get little bumps and bruises so that they don't run out in the interstate in traffic. You know what I mean? Anyway, Marcus, it looked like you were trying to jump in.
No, I agree with every bit of that. One of the things I think we also shouldn't forget as well is the opposite side of that. The fact that, we often overlook when we're in those moments like you were talking about, Chad, where it's you're just hating on God and just being all mad because this and that's going on. Often we forget that yeah, you got this one little thing and maybe it feels real big right now, but how many other little things did God help you get through? How many positive things were there coinciding with all of that? And I think that so often we forget to also look at, because I think you're right in that we should look at some of the negative things that are going on, but we also should recognize when we did good shit, when we were not being a shit bag, when we were right on target to what we should be doing, we need to take credit for that and point out to people, hey, you remember when we managed to get 20 people out to help do this thing for some homeless people, or remember when we did this or that. We need to start focusing on the successes that we have in life as well. And I think that, for as much as, yes, the channel, and one of the things I just brought up a moment ago was the fact that, sometimes it's hard to be a Christian and it's hard to be a religious person. You gotta, Jesus isn't an easy dude to follow. But we can also recognize when we do make the good, honest try and we succeed. And one of the things that I think that was really clear in the project that you did a couple of years ago that you're reposting is exactly that. We watched all of these very positive moments because sure, you had rough days here and there. But we saw a whole lot of positive. We saw a whole lot of Chad grabbing himself by his bootstraps and just lifting himself up every single day towards a positive and spiritual end. And so I think that positive pole also needs to be, I guess, recognized in the kind of working that you're talking about when you're talking about the Advent stuff that you're posting.
Yeah, it's I don't know, like I think that the thing that I sensed the most is like I felt myself, like I felt growth, like as I was going through it, and you realize like how, like I was down bad like before that. Like you remember like when we were starting to do this show, I had left the church. Like I was, you know what I mean? Like I was just like not feeling it, and I was kind of butthurt, pissed off, and felt jaded by all that stuff. And I mean, thank God for you, recommending that I go back to my roots in that regard, and thank God for Nicco for asking Vin Armani, Cyprian, when he was on the show, like, what's the boon that we can come back from our hero's journey with? And he said, and then thank God for Cyprian for the suggestion that he gave as the boon that we came back as our little takeaway from that whole journey and from that show that we did with him was wake up every morning and pray as the sun rises, and then as the sun goes down every night, pray.
Didn't you say like 3 times? He said 3 to 5 times, I think. It was sun up, sundown, and meals, I believe.
Yeah, well, meals too. Yeah, Yeah, but I mean, I was already praying at meals anyway. But yeah, you do that and you start. I mean, I'm telling you, like, it is incredible. And I have to say this, like, I have to fight this continually. One of the things that I'm a slave to a lot of times is my distractions, all the things that I'm like, all the different stimuli that I enjoy, trying to get up in the morning and as my feet hit the floor, first thing is for me to make the sign of the cross and to get down on my knees and start my morning prayer routine. Before I do anything else. You don't know how tempting it is to look at my phone and to check and see what came through. And if I do that, it'll be like 2 hours before I go get into my prayer routine. And so doing that, like, you would be amazed if you aren't doing it already at what it will do for how the rest of your day goes. Like, the rest of my day is completely different. And I think my sleep is different now that I pray before I go to bed every single day routinely. Like it was a thing that I would like do it when I felt like it, or I would do it if I remembered, but it wasn't something that I like committed to. And that's, I think that's where, like, when we get into this whole slavery thing, it's like, okay, like when I commit to something and I'm like, I'm going to do this, then yes, I enslave myself to that from the standpoint of like, it's kind of like when you go get a trainer to get you ready for a fight or something like that. Because I see Cassius Cam is in the audience here, and he talked about how he would have never gotten sober if he hadn't gotten caught. There's a lot of cases like that. A lot of people's rock bottom is, thank God it wasn't death, because they were going to be dead if this one thing didn't happen that caused them to turn around. And I know Cassius just had a friend who he lost recently to an overdose, and that was that's just like a devastating story. But like the transformation that you go through when you commit to something, and then you say like, okay, when that trainer is training you for that fight, and you said, hey, I'm hiring you to train me for this fight, I need you to put me in the best condition possible. You don't get to tell that trainer, no, I'm not doing that. You otherwise just fire him and stop training for the fight. You've got to get ready. And the only way you can get ready is if you bow down to complete obedience to what they tell you to do. Otherwise, why'd you hire them to train you in the first place? So when I did that and I devoted myself to it, like I didn't let it, I never let a day go by. Marcus remembers, like there was a time during the football season, it was like October or something like that. I was like 300 days into this thing, hadn't missed a day. And a bunch of stuff happened that morning. And then next thing I know, like somebody had given us tickets to one of the LSU football games last minute. And like my wife and I are getting ready to go. And I was like, oh my gosh, when I got up this morning, because I got up to a phone call from somebody. And so I didn't have that, like, first thing I do is put my feet on the floor, do the sign of the cross, and get on my knees and start praying. Instead, it was like, what's this phone call? Get up, and I'm already up and about and everything. Well, it's like 5:00 in the evening, and I still haven't done this, and I haven't recorded. And the other thing was, like, recording a video and putting it on Twitter made me accountable on another level, where I knew that people were watching, and I knew that I couldn't like miss a day for that. I did, trying to not let it be prideful, but it was, there was a certain, maybe there's a little vanity in there that, like, I didn't want people to think bad about me that I had skipped a day. But I immediately, I was like, all right, before we go to the game, I got to do this. I got to knock this thing out. I got to get it done. But I'm saying that to say, like, I think I probably went through that more in a getting it done to get it done, and less in a like truly prayerful. And so I'm saying all that to bring it back to, if you do this, the way you have to do it is, it's got to be, imagine that you are face to face with God in the flesh, and you want to spend time with this person. You want to spend time with the person you love more than anyone else. Are you going to just be like, all right, I'm out of here. I did it. Now give me my coffee. Or are you going to cherish that time and really try to get into like a place of like complete attention on only that person? Because that's the way that you have to do it. You cannot be distracted. You cannot be rushing through it to check a box and move on to the next thing in your day. It's got to be like the foundation of your day. And it transforms you. Like, I'm telling you, like, it's like I'm a completely different person. And the thing I was saying about being angry at God when little things would go wrong, I'm talking about, like, I drop a quarter between the seat and the console in my car, and I'm cussing, and I'm GD in it, and I'm, saying like God hates me and all this kind of stuff because somebody cut me off in traffic. I had somebody hack all my shit and steal $1,000 from me as I was going through this. The day that I read the voluntary poverty portion of it, which you'll see that in February, you'll get to see that one. It's going to come back again. It's going to resurface on the timeline and on the YouTube account. My response to that was just like when it happened, I'm driving down the interstate. I get a text like, hey, this password changed. I'm like, what? And then the next text is, welcome to Metro PCS. And I'm like, what? Then I lost phone service, and that was it. And I'm on the interstate, an hour from anywhere where I can go figure out what's going on. and I just am alone with my thoughts.
Mm.
And if I hadn't been going through that process, if I hadn't been praying like I was praying and building that foundation, I would have completely lost it. And I don't know where my mind would have been. I don't know what I would have done, but I just like trusted. I was just like, you know what? Like they can take everything from me, but they can't take this from me. Like
Facts.
nobody
Yeah.
can take this from me. And as I read the lives of the saints every day too, it's or listen to them. I listen to someone else read them to me. But because I don't have the book. I just have the like little audio thing. I want to get the book, but there's so many cases where these people they're offered like either one of their family members will not be killed or tortured, or they themselves will the torture will stop, or they will save their life if they just renounce Jesus and start praying to the emperor's stone gods or whatever other kind of stuff. And they're just like, no, I'm not kneeling to you, emperor. I'm a Christian. I follow Christ, and I welcome the gift of my heavenly crown when you behead me. So get on with it. Let's get to this beheading.
For sure.
You got to have a certain disposition to be able to say something like that. I'm not there yet.
For sure, but those kinds of, that's active spirituality, putting yourself in line, saying to God, "Hey, I'm open to you every single day," regardless of what meat and potatoes you're going to put on top of this devotional that you're doing on the day, whether it's a particular prayer or whatever it is. That doesn't really matter. To me, it seems that it's more about what's in your heart. And what I saw as you were doing that is you found that out. You found out what was in your heart. You started on a path, and God said, "Oh, you're looking for me? Here's me and you." And that seems to be what you acquired from that, was that blessing of God showing up and you feeling that participation of him within your life. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you like genuinely seek him, you can't help but find him. Like he's gonna just be like, oh, finally, like you're
So
not chasing the fake, I don't know, the illusion of me. You're actually looking for me now, and here I am.
So aside from God and praying on your end, what helped you stay level-headed and balanced instead of saying "fuck it all"? This is something that breaks a camel's back, because I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's got pressures, and you getting hit back to back to back to back is something that can cripple somebody. So what did you slave yourself to? What mentality did you use and bring or carry on with yourself to allow yourself not to fall and falter?
Man, you can keep going back to this. I'm enslaving myself with something else to avoid that other slavery. Oh no, I'm fucking with you. I mean,
I'm black. I can say slave.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it was. I mean, honestly, it was just that. It was really like, I wish I had. So I gave my daughter the book so she could read it this year. So she started it a couple of days ago, reading it, and I sent her the little clips too. So I was like, look, if you miss a day, like just here's the thing, you can just go through, and I just have these little 2-minute summaries, because it's a lot. Like it's very
a hefty book.
The language is very rich too. Like it's not a Diary of a Wimpy Kid type language, so it's thick. But
Pause.
it was really just that. Yeah, it was really just that. I don't know. It's like that. Like Marcus was saying, like once I started down that path, it was like, okay, do you really mean this? Are you really down for this? Because this is, it's like people say, like, be careful, because when you ask God for patience, God's not going to just be like, here's some patience.
Yeah.
God is going to offer you an opportunity to be patient.
It's a test.
Will you be patient in that
Mhm.
moment is the question. And that's where, like, it's almost like you praying for patience is a way for you to remind yourself that when that challenge comes, that you asked for this and that you want to be ready for it. And so now let's see if you're ready for it. And I mean, I stumble hourly, but I still get back up. And that's the biggest key too, is like
For sure.
don't be too hard on yourself, because we're all failed, flawed, fleshy human beings who are not perfect. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to fall to these temptations. It's not about whether you get knocked down. It's about whether you get back up again, and then how resolved are you? Because you're going to get knocked down a lot.
Sure.
And so it's when you're dealing with Satan, demons, whatever, there's nothing. I think it was Winston Churchill or somebody, one of these guys said, I mean, forget about all the other stuff, but like this particular saying is a good one. But he said, like, there's nothing more devastating to a bully than an opponent that refuses to stay down. Like, if you just keep getting the shit beat out of you and you keep getting back up, eventually you're going to wear them out because they're like, you're supposed to stop. You're supposed to give up by now. Like, no, I'm not giving up. I'm never going to give up. Never. I'm never giving up. So, like, because God's got my back. Like, we're in this. We're in this to win it.
Facts.
Yeah, look at Job, Justine. That's exactly right. Look at Job and that's. Oh, thank God they didn't choose me for that, because holy cow, I don't think I'd have done as well as Job. I'm working on getting to level up to Job level, but I am not him. No.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you. Like, I'm like a little pussy compared to this. I mean, seriously, some of these guys are like, yes, put my testicles on the pillar of God, hit it with the hammer of Antioch.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
but I'm sorry, buddy, I am not as cool as you are.
Yeah, like the
I'm
Maccabees.
trying, though.
So, like, shout out to Hanukkah, because like we're about to enter into that season, and it's like the Maccabees in that revolt, like they were being challenged. They were having, like, their whole family got like their tongues cut out and stuff, and like it's all, they got tortured and murdered and everything, and they're just like, bring it on, man. We are not going to do the things that you want us to do. We're not going to eat what you told us to eat, and you know what I mean. We're not doing it. No.
Right.
And there's so much of that stuff, and that's where, like, we go back the last 4 years. We've been saying over the last year, then it was over the last 2 years, then it was over the last 3 years. Now it's been 4 years of this BS that they've been putting us through, and that was another example of, like, all right, are you going to give in, or are you going to maintain that your body is a temple and you're not going to put that stuff in your body?
They did make people with slaves via that.
Mm-hmm.
They sure did. They sure did say, you got one way or no way. And I mean, then we were the people of the Underground Railroad. Shouts out to the people who never submitted. But yeah, no, I mean, there's so many ways to view how to allow yourself to get caught somewhere and allow yourself not to get caught somewhere.
Right.
Putting my nuts on a stone and getting them, no. I think that's what everybody just did. Put their
here's the thing, though. Yeah, here's the thing, though. Like, in some ways, like, there's some of that stuff where, because there's this when Columbine, when that whole shooting happened, there was this girl, Cassie Bernal. She's pretty famous for this now, but she's the one who they were like, they knew that she was like a real heavy Christian, and so they, like, went straight to her and they pointed the gun in her face and they're like, "Tell me there's no God." And she's like, "No." Like, I don't remember all the things that they said, but it was basically like, renounce your faith or I'm gonna blow your head off. She's like, "Go ahead." And killed her. And there's this, I think he's a Sikh, Sadhu Sundar Singh. But anyway, he said he said, to die for Christ is easy because it only takes a moment. But to live for Christ is hard because you have to die to yourself daily.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, that's the thing, is that we sometimes, some of this stuff is like, I read this stuff with the martyrs and everything, and it's like, the reason why they were able to undergo all that torture and then ultimately death is because they had prepared themselves through so much other stuff before that. They were already dying every day before that. By the time they got to that point, they're like, oh, finally. It's like, if you've ever run like long distance, when I'm running long distance, I hate it. I absolutely hated running long, but I did when I was younger.
If I'm running, start running, there's a bear.
I know, right? There's something coming. But, all right, so anybody who runs, like you can feel this. Like, I have always hated running, but I run anyway. And I much rather like running up and down a basketball court where there's something to chase and something to do. But anyway, distance running, like I ran cross country in high school and everything. My coach and like a couple other people used to get mad at me because I had this like incredible kick at the end where I could sprint for like the last 800 to 1,000 yards. I would just be like sprinting, like hauling ass the whole way. But the whole time I was running the 3 miles or whatever, I was like, this is bullshit. And I'm looking for something, like, is there somewhere over here where I could pretend like I sprained my ankle so I could stop? Because I don't want to do this anymore. And I would gut it out. And the thing is, like, at the end, because my body had been conditioned so much through all the training that we do, I had this little kick at the end and I would just sprint. And I feel like that's kind of like how this stuff is for some of these martyrs, where it's like, you're at that point, you're like, bring it on. I'm ready to sprint to this. I'm ready to sprint to my death because I've been preparing for this whole time. I've been suffering for so long. You're telling me it's about to be over and I get to go be united with God forever now? Like, please do it now. How quickly can you do it? Whereas it's the ones that never got martyred that perhaps had the harder life because they actually had to continue to endure, and they endured through like sickness and like slow death in their 80s and 90s and everything. That's where we're called to keep up the faith, even through the stuff that's long and slow and boring, because it's easy to do it when it's when there's the lights are on. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, because how many people were shitty that Facebook might go away? Oh no, I might have to not have Facebook. I don't know that I could stand up for some not having Facebook. That's the kind of shit that we got to face, though. And you know what? You're right, buddy. If you can't make the sacrifice and no Facebook, I don't know that we can help you out there.
Well, and those are the same people who are like, they say that they're saved, and I'm like, man, really? Like, come on now.
I got the certificate.
Like, you might be saved right now. Like, if you got hit by a truck, you might be all right. But I don't know if, like, on the way to you dying, if they said, like, look, all you got to do is say you hate Jesus and we will let you have this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's right. There's some of this stuff where it's like, okay, worship this idol, worship this, whatever. We have to be very careful. We have to be very, very vigilant because it comes for all of us. We are all vulnerable to these last temptations. I mean, look, they did it. The devil did it to Christ right before his passion. He's in the desert waiting for his inevitable crucifixion and death. And the devil still comes and is like, hey, look, I can let you off the hook. You know, I don't know that we're all necessarily that strong, and we have to continue to like. That's why like all this stuff, like the fasting and prayer and like repenting from the stuff that is pulling you away from God, and then like also giving of yourself to other people and giving until it hurts is part of this. That's something I have to work on. I'm very good at giving out of excess or giving when it doesn't really matter to me whether I, you know, it's like I could do without that. Here, you can have it. But it's giving something that I really want to someone who also wants it, and being charitable in that regard. That's a challenge for all of us. But when we do all those things, it actually prepares us. It prepares us to be able to. It's that strength train. It's like we were talking about with when I brought up Cassius and the boxing training. You know, that's the training that you do that makes it to where when you're in the ring for the final fight, the big fight, all that stuff that you did, all those blows that you took to the body, all that speed bag work that you did, all that stuff comes into play because now you're prepared for it. You have the endurance, you have the strength, you have the your chin is stronger. You're able to take those blows a little more easily and deal with them because you've been through all this other stuff already. And saying that like brings me back to what is Advent and why does this thing start in Advent? Because it's the beginning of for Christians anyway, it's the beginning of that faith journey on an annual basis where we go through. There's this, and then you go through the Lenten season and the Easter season, and then through like the different parts where you go through different parts of the Bible as you go through the year. But it's the Advent season is preparation too. It's preparing ourselves, emptying ourselves, so that it's kind of wild that like God himself, like omniscient, omnipresent, and like bigger than everything, found a way to make himself small enough to fit in the womb of a human being. And that's what we have to do. We have to prepare. Like he makes himself small enough to live in our hearts, you know, and it's like, but preparing that for that so that it's not cluttered with garbage and I don't know. Like you think about like if you had somebody coming over and they were really, really important, you wouldn't be like, "Ah, that's cool. You can sleep in the garage. Don't worry about all the trash in there and the rats. Just push them away and then lay down." No, you take your best room, you make one of your kids move out of their room, or you and your wife would move out of y'all's room or something. You know what I mean? You would make it the best possible accommodations you could. And that's what we're trying to do.
Oh, for sure. And you know, I think that it's also it's a good reminder, you know, timing wise. I get that in your faith, Chad, that there's specific reasons for it, but beyond all that, you know, it's a good time to start it because you're cold, and that's something that you will remember as you're finishing it, because you're going to come back around to it being cold. And you know, there's going to be times when, you know, and I strongly suggest that people do some kind of daily prayer at least for a year, and see what it does for them. I think that the experience that Chad had is amazing. I've had a similar experience in my past, and I think that it really does help to direct you and to give you guidance as you're going through your life. So yeah, I think that for me, you know, it's more than just a prayer. It is realizing every single day that God is part of your life, and I think that it's just a very valuable thing to do.
I wholeheartedly agree, and we'll double down on what you said, Marcus. It's a prayer isn't something that you just say in your head, or you know, spiritual things aren't just like you just imagine it. No, you have to believe it. You have to like put your soul and your heart and your essence into it, and actually believe in what you're doing. and it gives you a sense of comfortability. It gives you a sense of like foundation and being at home and being centered. It doesn't take you away. Chad wakes up every morning and prays and makes sure that he prays. And I bet you every morning that you skip out on your prayer and you go to your phone, you're like, fuck. Like, oof, I feel a little off or a little woozy. I don't feel like I'm properly centered. For you, Marcus, I know you pray sun, moon, night, fall, something in between.
I do a lot of shit, dude.
So
For
like,
sure.
I can see how like it has a grounding effect, and for myself as well. You know, when you give yourself and give true essence and like real life ideology and practice to something that is of the figment and of the spiritual, it brings a sense of wholeness to the tangibility of this reality. That's it.
I wanted to. Are you okay with me bringing this thing up? Because this is
Feel free, man.
It's really important too. I definitely agree with this. That this is something that happens. That when you have negative thoughts, it's like a prayer. Like the things that we think about and we focus on are our prayers essentially. And so if you are constantly worried about something, you are damn near inviting that thing that you're worried about. And you need to be really careful, and you need to I don't know, convert that into the opposite, which is to pray for the thing that you want and pray for. And really, like a lot of times, like I have found that I wish I had that prayer because it's really good. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to see if I can find it and pull it up. But if you are not, let's say you're worried about, the result of a test. Like you went and got a test from the doctor, and you're worried about, well, what if I have cancer or something like that? If you're constantly worrying about cancer, like I don't know, man. Like I wouldn't be. That's not what I would be doing. I would just be putting all of my energy and thought and prayer into, Lord, let me be healthy. Let me come out of this healthy, but not my will, but your will be done. And whatever your will is, help me to accept it and help me to grow closer to you through it. And then that's it. And then you're not inviting all that. My wife was talking about, she had a friend that every day she would be like, not today, Satan. And she's like, it's almost like it's instead of like praying to God, you're actually praying to Satan and like taunting him. Like, come get me. I dare you. It's like, nah, I'm not doing that. Like that ain't the way.
For sure.
Why are you talking to him?
Beelzebub. Oh shit, why are there so many flies?
Right. Do you stand in front of the mirror and say Candyman 3 times too? Like, come on now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah. Go ahead, Chad.
Oh no, that was it. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, but I think the most important thing is the fact that people just find their way. There are so many things that are more important than the silly mundane crap that we get caught up in. You hug your kids. That's the stuff that you should be doing. You should be moving right into this Christmas season and focusing down on peace and love and spreading that as much as we can.
Yeah, I'm trying to find this thing. All right. Y'all keep it going. Come on now. I'm trying to
It's okay, man. What happened was I had to sneeze.
Oh yeah. Okay. No, I'm not looking at the screen, so I didn't see that.
Yeah, I was right in the middle of it. Then I was like, oh shit, I gotta sneeze. But no, stop.
Here it is.
People need to stop with all this nonsense and just focus down on the simple shit.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to read this prayer. This is one of the prayers that is part of my prayer routine every morning. It's the prayer for the acceptance of God's will. It says, "O Lord, I know not what to ask of thee. Thou alone knowest my true needs. Thou lovest me more than I myself know how to love. Help me to see my real needs, which are concealed from me. I dare not ask either a cross or consolation. I can only wait on thee. My heart is open to thee. Visit and help me for thy great mercy's sake. Strike me and heal me. Cast me down and raise me up. I worship in silence thy holy will and thine inscrutable ways. I offer myself as a sacrifice to thee. I put all my trust in thee. I have no other desire than to fulfill thy will. Teach me how to pray. Pray thou thyself in me. And that's just like, it's like, because so often, like I find myself, like prayer can be a wishing well, like, please let me get the girl that I want, or please let me get the job that I want, or please let me get this money, or whatever it is. And it's not it's not in line with like there's this being created everything. Why would you not just be like, hey, I'm going to trust that you got it because you made all this, like just, you got it. You made all this. Help me to be in line with that design and not fight against you.
And that's the hard part.
That's the hard part.
Hey, and Justine was asking again what that was from that you were reading.
Oh, it's a prayer from Saint Tikhon of Zadonsk. That's the it's actually, as I'm going through this process, it's the saint that I'm most likely choosing as my patron. I got to talk to the priest about to see if, because I almost want to go and be like, I don't think I should select. I think I should let somebody else who knows me and sees me from the outside and be like, oh yeah, so this is the saint that you should but looking at. But anyway, no, that's a prayer of his. There's a prayer book that has all kind of different prayers, but it's this little book that I have it in. But that one, I don't know where that is in here, but I have like a card that has like this whole list of prayers that I read every morning, and then there's some other stuff like you go through. There's like scripture stuff for every day, so that you basically go through like, it's like 75% of the Bible, like every year that you go through. If you read these things every day that are in there, so
cool.
Anyway, but yeah, that was that. So I did want to say, like, because we talked about it before. It's not Christmas season yet, everybody. It is Advent season. This is the preparation for Christmas. Christmas season starts on Christmas Day.
I like Advent.
It actually kind of starts on the night before Christmas. But technically like Christmas, it's like that's like the vigil or whatever for that. But anyway, Christmas Day through January 6th, which is the Epiphany, or some people call it Theophany, which is like where the wise men found Jesus in the manger. That is when the Christmas season ends, and then after that, it's not Christmas anymore. So I have to do my old man on get off my lawn thing, where like when I see these people throwing their Christmas trees out on Christmas afternoon or the next day, and they're taking all their lights down and everything, but these are the lights that they put up on October 22nd or something, before Halloween even came or something, like, man, y'all got it all wrong. Like, I know you like the Christmas music and it's fun, and you want to
see, we're just practicing Yule out here, man.
Yeah, well, it's just not anyway, do Christmas right. Come on, people.
Bring the Yule tide in.
I don't even know. Like, I'm not as well studied on all that stuff as you are. But no, the thing you said about about your prayer and how, like, what it needs to be, like it's almost like y'all familiar with the comedian Jim Gaffigan? Mm-hmm. He's like the pasty white guy who like always talks about like eating too much and like being terrible health, and like hot pockets. Yeah, he has a bunch of kids. And he made a funny joke one time. He's like, people said, what's it like having 7 kids? And he's like, well, it's like you're drowning and then someone hands you a baby. Because like when the kid was born or whatever. Well,
Right.
I'm gonna tell this joke because it's funny, but it's also like it's kind of how we sometimes treat our relationship with God. So follow me here. So he has this joke that he tells where he talks about how like when their baby, their seventh baby or whatever was a newborn, wake up crying every night, and like he said what his trick was is it would wake him up, but he would just pretend like he was asleep until his wife woke up and she got up. And then he would pretend to get up while she's walking to the door, be like, oh, no, I got it. I got it. She's like, no, it's fine. I'm already up. And then he'd be like, okay, well, while you're up, can you give me a sandwich? Can you make me a sandwich? And so I'm saying this to say, like, all right, I'm sure Jim Gaffigan loves his wife, and that's just a bit that he's doing, right? But let's just say there's a person who actually does that, and that's like their actual MO, right? And they actively do this. Now, you can say, I love you, honey. I'm here for you. I love you so much. But does that action indicate that person loves that person? Or does that action indicate that they're just kind of like half-assing it and they're not really doing what they need to do to help? They're being lazy, right? So that's where, like, when it comes to our prayer life and our relationship with God, like, it can't just be like hey, while you're up, God, I need some things. I love you. Trust me. I love you more than anything, but don't bother me. I'm watching porn.
And I'm gonna need that lottery ticket later.
All right, I need that lottery ticket, and I need you to go away real quick while I log into Pornhub, or
for sure.
Don't bother me while I'm
can you
playing.
use the blind cover up real quick? I don't need you to see this.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So like it's we have to really be about that life. You know what I mean? Like it's not enough to just say the words. You gotta live it.
Right, for sure. That's the hard part, man. It really is. It's like, but that's kind of the point. Is that Sri Ramakrishna said that it's easy to speak on religion, it's harder to practice it, and that's when what you're talking about, the kind of project like you did with this stuff, when divine intimacy, that's what you did. You practiced religion. You were actively taking action to find God, and it's just good, potent shit, man. That's where it's at. That's where that God sees that. He sees that you're taking action because it's hard. And that's where the real reward, I think, comes from, whether it's in this life or the next one. I really care, but it's but I think that's where God gets it, man. He figures it out because he sees you out there toiling and doing what you got to do to try to find your way.
Yeah, well, I would be remiss if I didn't say that I am very uncomfortable with all of the things that you say that are about me, because like I have to be careful that, like, because it's tempting to be like prideful about that or to be vain about it or whatever.
I can be prideful for you.
It's not about me. No, but really, like, what you witnessed was not me. It was a person working through me and transforming me. And I have a long way to go, and I'm thankful.
Sure.
I'm thankful for you two for being here along the way and encouraging me as I approached that moment when I decided to do that, and as I've continued on that journey. And I'm grateful for Vin, for Cyprian, for kind of nudging us in that direction too. And I'm thankful for the people who wrote that book, and for everybody else, all the people I've met along the way. Like, it's I don't know, it's wild, like how impactful, like some things that probably seem small at the time can be when you like zoom out and you see like what happened, that was triggered by like the butterfly effect of those few little things. Like, I don't know that you were like really like, this is really important that I say this to Chad right now. I think you were just like, hey man, I think Chad needs to hear this.
Yeah, that's
You
exactly
know,
what it
it's, but like it's, the impact is tremendous. And so like, don't ever think that like, when you say things out of love and genuine compassion and care for someone, and you're really trying to help them to not fall off or to not be discouraged, don't ever underestimate the impact that has. I do want to say this is beautiful that Justine shared here. Ask for the desire to seek who he is and his will. And yeah, that's it. Like, that's it. Seek who God is, or pray for the desire to seek God, to seek who God is, and to seek God's will. And you're going to, you may not enjoy the answer, but if you accept it, it's going to help you. It's going to be better for you than when you fight it. I promise you that much.
Factual. Oh, well, a little tidbit on top of what you said. It's the most minute things that can carry some of the most heaviest weight.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the smallest things. And, you know, like a smile to somebody who's on the brink of depression and death. A smile and a hug could change their life around. And it's just something simple. So, I mean, you continuously work on the minute things to make a magnanimous thing.
That's crazy you say that. So like the day before Thanksgiving, or no, it was Thanksgiving Day. It was the day before our Thanksgiving, because we did Thanksgiving a day late because we when you get, Marcus, you know this, when your family gets big enough, you have to like be like, all right, y'all can have this day and we'll have this day. And you got to like take turns. You got to take turns with in-laws and all that kind of stuff. And different, the family gets stretched out and spread out. Well, our neighbor across the street, we just see like a fire truck pull up and then an ambulance pull up. We're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Because we know like both of them have had some health problems. So like I run over there to see what's going on. They've got him on a gurney. They're putting him in the ambulance, and I go talk to his wife, and I'm just like, they're right across the street from us. I see all this stuff going down. It's Thanksgiving Day. I'm like, oh God, this is terrible. Thanksgiving Day. What a terrible time for something like this to happen. Hey, do you need anything? Do you need a ride to the hospital? Whatever, it was okay. Like he was just dehydrated and stuff and had been vomiting and everything, but but it turns out he had like a little mini stroke. Oh, no. Well, last night I'm putting Christmas lights up, and like this truck just like pulls up in front of the house, like passes it up, like going slow, and then stops and then backs up and stops in front of our house. And I'm like, all right, are they telling me like they don't like my lights, or they do like my lights, or like what's going on here? Well, it was their daughter, because their house, like they live on a corner, and so like their driveway is like back behind, so I didn't see them leave the house or anything like that. They just looked like somebody coming down the street. And she was like, I just wanted to tell you, like we got and I got to check on them after this, but because they had a doctor's appointment today. She's like, my mom wanted to. She said she was so thankful that you came over and checked on them, and then I got her number and everything, and because I had talked to him and I had his number, but I didn't have the wife's number. But anyway, so she's just you checking on him and all this stuff. I was like, I feel kind of bad because like after she told me he was okay and he came back home, I stopped checking on him. Now you're telling me like you're trying to get him to go to the ER again. Like I feel bad that I haven't checked on him in like a week because I thought everything was good. She's like, no, it's fine. So, but anyway, it's just crazy how like I didn't think I was just like doing what you're supposed to do, just going to check on her and see if she needed help. Like it's not a big deal, but like I don't know, like I didn't expect somebody to come.
You're not so big deals are big deals to other people,
Yeah, well, and now so anyway, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because now it reminded me that as soon as we get off of here, I gotta call and check on them. And if y'all don't mind, like, so since we're talking about praying tonight and everything, whenever you hit your knees tonight or tomorrow morning or however you pray, if you could send one up for him, for Mr. George across the street, that he got good results and that he's got health on the way, restored health on the way. And then also for the family of Cassius Cam's friend who
for sure.
Yeah,
he has like a 6-month-old baby and a 4-year-old. So like they've got to go through life without a dad now. So just for his wife and those 2 little babies, just for them, if you don't mind sending up that special one.
For sure.
So, that's all I got.
That's what I've got too, man. Hey, thanks for joining us. And Chad, thanks again for sharing this project again. Gives people another chance to look at the cool practice that it was. Thanks again, and everybody, stay free.
Peace, y'all.